Hey, welcome! Today we're going to dive into something pretty much all of us have experienced, getting a blood test. We're going to follow that tiny sample on its secret journey and uncover the incredible story it tells about one of the most vital systems in our entire body. Okay, so let's actually follow that little vial of blood. We're going to trace its path through the, super complex world of the clinical lab and see how it helps us unravel the fundamental science of how our bodies manage water. It's really a story of amazing precision and, honestly, biological genius. First things first, we are pulling back the curtain on the clinical biochemistry lab. This is the unseen, high-tech world where your sample gets transformed from just a liquid into a set of data that can literally guide life-saving decisions. So this whole process is broken down into three main phases. And you might think the fancy machines are the most important part, but actually, that first phase, the pre-analytical one, is arguably the most critical. This is where most errors happen. Things like mislabeling a tube or drawing the wrong sample. It's the human part of the equation, which is why the rules here are so incredibly strict, way before a machine even gets turned on. Before a single drop of blood is even taken, we have to answer the most important question of all. Do we have the right patient? There is absolutely zero room for error here. That's why labs use at least 3 unique identifiers. And here's what's really important. It has to be an active process. The person drawing your blood can't just say, "Are you John Smith?" They have to ask, "Can you please state your full name and date of birth?" This makes sure the patient is engaged and confirming their own identity. It's a simple but incredibly powerful safety check. Right, once the sample is collected, it has to be prepped. The blood gets spun down to separate the liquid part for testing, and this slide shows a really key difference. You can get either plasma or serum. Here's the deal. Plasma is the liquid part of blood that still has all the clotting factors in it. Serum is what's left after you let the blood clot and then spin it down. All those clotting proteins are gone. Different tests need different things, so knowing the difference is just fundamental. Okay, so now we've got our sample, we know how it's handled. Let's get into one of the most vital stories it can tell us, the state of our body's water balance. And this is where we get into some seriously cool physiology. You've probably heard that we're mostly water, but just let that number sink in. For an average adult male, a whopping 60% of his body weight is just water. For women, it's a little less, maybe 50 to 55%. We are basically very sophisticated, walking, talking bags of water. And this is brilliant because it shows that all that water isn't just sloshing around in one big pool. Nope, it's carefully divided up. A full 2/3 of it is intracellular fluid, or ICF, meaning it's literally inside our trillions of cells. The other third is extracellular, or ECF, which is the fluid bathing our cells, and of course, the plasma in our blood. Now, the one concept that rules all of this water movement is something called osmolality. All that really means is how concentrated a fluid is with dissolved stuff. Salts, sugars, proteins, the works. Water will always move to balance out this concentration, and our body fights tooth and nail to keep our osmolality in this incredibly tight life-or-death range. So this begs a huge question, right? How on earth does the body manage this incredibly delicate balancing act, second by second? Well, the answer comes down to one superstar hormone, a true master controller. Everybody meet arginine vasopressin, or AVP. You might also know it as antidiuretic hormone, or ADH. Just think of AVP as your body's personal hydrothermostat, or my personal favorite, the water boss. Its whole job is to keep an eye on your hydration and make tiny adjustments to keep everything perfectly in check. So how does our water boss actually do its job? Well, it uses a pretty sophisticated toolkit of receptors to send out very specific commands to different parts of the body. So here are its main tools. The V1A receptors, they're on blood vessels. When AVP hits them, they squeeze the vessels to raise blood pressure. But for water balance, the real star of the show is the V2 receptor. These guys are located in the kidneys, and when AVP binds to them, it's a direct order. Stop, do not let that water leave, pull it back into the body. That's the antidiuretic effect, literally against pee. So we've seen the beautiful design of how this is supposed to work, but what happens when the water boss just stops showing up for work or starts screaming orders nonstop? This is where our blood test becomes an absolutely critical detective tool, and where we see some real clinical drama. This system can fail in 2 completely opposite ways. On one side, you can have an AVP deficiency. There's just not enough of the hormone. The kidneys never get the memo to save water, and that leads to a condition called diabetes insipidus. On the flip side, you can have AVP excess, where the body's making way too much, causing something called SIADH.
To really understand what an AVP deficiency means, just look at this number. Without AVP telling the kidneys to hold on to water, they basically become open floodgates. A person with severe diabetes insipidus can pee out up to 20 liters of watery urine in one day. The name is pretty cool too. Diabetes means to pass through, and insipidus means tasteless, which is how they used to tell it apart from diabetes mellitus, where the urine is sweet. Okay, so here's the big puzzle for doctors. A patient shows up, they're intensely thirsty and urinating constantly. What's the cause? Is it cranial DI, where the brain isn't making AVP? Is it nephrogenic DI, where the kidneys are just ignoring the AVP that's there? Or is it something else entirely, like primary polydipsia, where someone is just compulsively drinking too much water? On the surface, they all look the same, and that's where the real detective work begins. And this is how they crack the case. The water deprivation test is just a brilliant piece of medical investigation. Under very close watch, the patient isn't allowed to drink. Doctors see if their body can figure out how to concentrate urine on its own. Then they give them a shot of synthetic AVP. If the kidneys suddenly start working and concentrating urine, bam, the problem was in the brain. If they still don't respond, then you know the kidneys are the problem. It just systematically reveals where the failure is. Now let's look at the complete opposite problem, SIADH, where there's way too much AVP. Now the body's holding on to too much water. It dilutes everything in the blood, leading to a really dangerous condition called hyponatremia, or critically low sodium. And the lab results tell the whole crazy story. The blood is super dilute, but the urine is weirdly concentrated because ADP is just constantly screaming at the kidneys to save water no matter what. And this is really the whole point, that one simple vial of blood lets us connect all the dots. We can go from the function of a single receptor on a kidney cell all the way to diagnosing and managing these incredibly complex, life-threatening diseases, right there at the patient's bedside. It's just a remarkable story from start to finish. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we can unravel this whole elegant system of water balance from just one sample, what other incredible stories about how our bodies work are just hiding in plain sight, waiting to be told by a single drop of blood? Thanks so much for watching this explainer.